Today, I want to highlight my top 9 tips that help me in building long-lasting wealth, and they are no ordinary ones. I'm sure you heard about loads of ways on building wealth and maybe even watched some YouTube videos on this topic. But in this video, I truly try to have a moment and reflect on my actual tips that I personally used without even knowing and realized that could be somewhat helpful for others. Also, I want to say that by no means I have achieved my ultimate goals, and also I'm not doing this video to show off or anything like that. I really think that the information could be helpful and useful to some other people, and let me know in the comments after watching the video if you found it helpful as well. And with that being said, let's kick off. My first tip is focusing on monthly income rather than annual income. To be honest with you, I've just recently realized about this, and that's exactly why I decided to start with this tip as my first one and tell you that when I was focusing on annual income, I was actually never achieving it in the past few years. However, when I was only looking at the monthly income or setting up a high monthly income standard, I was actually always surpassing it or even doubling and tripling it. And of course you will ask, in case you have a salary, how is this even possible? Because I'm set and there is nothing else I can multiply or double. However, that doesn't only apply for entrepreneurs, that actually also applies for those who start off with a salary and also have some other side hustles. And this is actually exactly how I personally started with. Instead of setting an annual target and only waiting for that raise to achieve it, it actually gives you an opportunity to reflect and think about other ways and other opportunities how you can maximize your monthly income when you actually have a monthly target. Consider this being an impulse within inner self that will push you towards achieving that monthly target, which honestly, it's so much easier to achieve than getting that annual target in place. And that's because a monthly target is much smaller than an annual target. And looking at, let's say, 5 or 10K, you will actually find more ideas and more out-of-the-box creative ways how you can reach the target. Whereas when looking at, let's say, 50, 100K a year or even more, it actually puts you kind of in a corner and your brain doesn't let you think properly. And that's exactly when you become feeling stuck and the ideas are stopped and you don't really develop those creative sides of yourself. And that's exactly why I think setting a monthly target and achieving that gives you more satisfaction and more proof that you can actually achieve your other targets in the future. Nevertheless, that doesn't mean that you shouldn't achieve your annual target. It just means that you will simply achieve your monthly target much quicker and easier. And to be honest, most of the times you will actually achieve your annual target as well, or even surpass it. By doing so, you actually allow your brain to function better and think of other creative ways of making money. And not only that, you're actually also thinking of some passive or regular monthly income that in the future will be tremendously helpful for you if you want to quit your job, for example, because you will already have those ideas working for you and bringing you some income every single month that will help you to quit or start your own business. So to wrap it up, set yourself 2 targets, an annual one and a monthly one, yet focus mainly on the monthly one. The second tip is actually quite linked to the previous one, and that is setting yourself a minimum monthly standard and adding as many income streams as possible to achieve it. Building wealth over time will eventually require you to step out of employment and start your own business or live off your investments at any kind of form. So that's super important to know about this point and start doing this earlier because you will feel more safe and secure when you're actually ready to open that business, as you will already have those passive income streams that are meeting your minimum monthly living requirements, and you don't really need to think about them, and you will feel better, and your brain will actually be more open towards newer ideas for your business. At the beginning of your journey, this might seem very tedious, and it actually seemed the same for me when I was thinking that just making another extra $100 wouldn't really save me. However, by the time you're ready to start the business, some years will definitely pass, and throughout those years, those $100 or $1,000 could grow and could be automated and could come in as passive income, and that will become insanely helpful for you. It won't only help you by paying your monthly bills, it will actually grant you freedom if you're still employed, because at any point in time you will be feeling okay to leave or to quit your job, or to just change it as well, because you know that you are already meeting that minimum monthly income that you need to survive, and even more if you're successful. So that would be super helpful for you, trust me on that. The third tip is a very personal one, because I've made this mistake and I think you should actually really think about it deeply. And that is, don't aim to make more money while being employed. Rather focus on growing your side income. And I know for some that might seem strange and unexplainable, like how you can actually not want that raise or not focus on getting that 10,000 more per year, and instead focusing on getting that sure but secure $100 in passive income per month. Because at the end of the day, per annum, you made more money, so you should be feeling more successful. And honestly, I felt the same, and I was growing at insane speeds and I was feeling so successful. However, the actual point is making your side income work for you and grow for you. And over time, this will definitely give you more results. The first reason for that is that you're actually limiting your freedom and you're locking yourself in that very high paying job, and that makes it insanely difficult, sometimes even impossible to get out. Because let's think about it. What do you think it's easier, to quit a job that's paying you, let's say, a very high income of 150 to 300K a year, or is it actually easier to quit a job that's paying you 50K or 70K, but at the same time, you are having some side, let's say $1,000 to $2,000 that will always keep you at this minimum level, and you won't actually feel afraid, or you won't actually rush into getting a new opportunity. And of course, in this case, it depends on yourself. If you don't want to build long-lasting wealth, as in huge amounts, and are actually okay with your salary, that's also very fine. If you don't want to take the risks as an entrepreneur, that's actually super fine as well, because to be honest, making 200 to 300K or even more, I know people making $500,000 as a salary per year, that's actually super good. So I mean, you don't have any kind of responsibility. It's not your own company. You kind of have a responsibility within the company, but if you mess up, they will just fire you. You don't lose your assets, you don't lose your license, and you don't lose your life. So you also have a lot of money saved in your bank account because you're making so much, and that makes it well for you. However, if you want to be free, and if you actually want to build something long lasting and that you can pass on to your kids or grandchildren, then that's definitely not the way for you to go. So it's better to focus on your own side income, build it in a business, or even start straight away. If you're sure and you have maybe some investors on the side backing you up, why not? But that's definitely the only way forward. My fourth tip is to specialize, and that's super, super important. Just remember that. If you specialize, doesn't matter if it's employment or your own work, you will always be doing okay. By specializing, you become a professional in your field, And that's the only way how you can build your actual desirability. And there will always be demand for something specific rather than a generalist that is doing all kinds of things and have tried many other things. And don't get me wrong, you should and you must actually try a lot of things before getting specialized. But when you feel like you're good at what you're doing already and you tried some things and you know that you might actually like it or you're already loving it, then that's the right moment to start specializing and only hit into this target. Let's take a simple case, be that employment or your own work. If you work per hour and you have hourly rates, if you're specialized and you have a CV or just people know you that you've been in business or you've been doing that specific service for 5 or 10 years, don't you think customers will want you more than someone who's been doing all kinds of things for the past even 20 years? I know it sounds longer, but I think you as a professional will be definitely more desirable. And of course, you can also increase the hourly rates. And afterwards, you can get a team and build a business, which happens in 99% of the business cases throughout the world. My next tip is actually also linked to employment, and that's about not needing and not wanting to actually get higher roles because they will simply eat up all your free time. Obviously, I'm not advocating for stagnation, and if you have a increase, let's say a job offer or a salary rise, definitely go and take it. However, if you're already making enough money and you have some flexibility and some freedom to focus on your own ideas, that's not necessarily true that you need to actually increase more and more into your job. Because honestly, after you become a senior manager, let's say, or a head of department, you actually have a lot of responsibilities and your time will be super limited. You almost won't have any free time. So in this case, when you want to actually get out of employment, build some long-lasting wealth, you shouldn't actually focus on getting those higher roles. Instead, you should calculate and see the difference, the opportunity cost between a head, let's say, or a VP level role and your current role. If there is a slight increase in monetary job benefits and financial remuneration, then you should actually consider if that's enough to cover your free time. And if you actually are working on those ideas already, then you might want to keep your job and just focus on your own stuff, because that's more important to you. And you should always realize that and understand that that's your priority and not your job. And again, I'm not advocating for not doing your job right or not spending those hours in your employment. I'm actually thinking that you should be a professional and you should be responsible for that because you have been employed and you have some responsibilities. So do them right, do them at the highest level possible, but you also have your free time. So you should really think about the trade you want to make. If you really want to trade your free time for that extra job status or level or those extra financial benefits, then that's your decision. However, I believe your free time should be focusing on yourself or on your creative ideas. Because at the end of the day, we're talking about building wealth in this video and not about how you can grow in your employed career. And with that, I'm going to shift away from the employment scene and speak about my next tip, which is have an annual goals list and religiously stick to it. And what do I mean by that is that you should actually make yourself an annual goals list before the end of the year and make it so realistic and so calculated that you can actually stick throughout the next year and tick off the ones that you have achieved, I mean the goals that you have achieved, and focus on the next ones. And at the end of this next year, you can actually make a calculation and understand how many of them you have actually achieved and even give yourself a grade in percentage. I personally have developed my very own goals list, and as far as I remember, I named it 24 goals method, and I actually made a video, a while ago. I'll pop it on the screen and you can watch it after this video. You also have a Word document with the template, so you can complete your goals and actually track them specifically per the requirements in that document. And you will see what I mean by the requirements, because you have to be very specific and very strict towards achieving them. By no means you should get demotivated if you don't achieve it in your first year, because let's be honest, the first year will be a trial one for you if you have never done it before, and you will understand what's realistic for you, what you have actually made it in a very simple form, and maybe you can want to develop on those goals and ideas and make them more specific and more complex for your next one. After you got the idea and you understand how to write those goals properly, in the next years, I would aim for around 70% achievement, which is a really good performance, at least for my few past years. That was the grade that I was setting myself as a target. I was always surpassing it just because every single time I was thinking of new goals, and most probably it will come to you as well. I also write them on the other side of the page, and at the end of the year I just use them as inspiration for the next year's goals. And you can calculate it super simple by just looking at the number of the goals that you have achieved and dividing that by 24, and you will see the percentage amount. My next tip is super important, and actually not too many people follow it, but you should. That's about your purchases. Buy only investable assets and don't waste money on anything else. So what do I mean by that? Do your market research about the items that you want to purchase and see and find out whether there is any value after you made the purchase. Because believe me or not, for many things in this world, the actual value might even go up. And that obviously happens in the most known market, which is the jewelry and watch market, where specific models from specific brands are always showing really good performances, sometimes even better than the stock market. So if you do your research right and you look at the item and see that it has been performing pretty well on the secondary market, then you should better consider that instead of something that is just flashy, let's say, or you just want it and won't bring any kind of value in terms of an asset whatsoever after you purchase it. And believe it or not, this can actually be applied to other things such as leather. If you want a bag, you can actually check it out on the secondary market and see that that could actually perform better than something else. So that could help you take your decision and make more informed and financially literate choices. The next one is trust your instincts and don't overthink. Okay, this one is a little bit more general and maybe you've heard it before, maybe not, but it's actually super important. And I've just recently also realized it in my career, and not only in my life decisions and choices as well. You see, overthinking sometimes can be quite destructive and be against you. So knowing your instincts and knowing what you want is actually much more important than planning ahead for some things or just looking at different ways how you can do it. Although planning ahead is important, but if you overthink and you just don't do anything, it will never happen. So that's exactly what I mean in this case. Some of the best decisions in my life were actually made on instincts, where I had some background knowledge, I knew how to do it, or at least I knew how I can achieve something in a way or another, maybe not super clear, but I just trusted my instincts and I knew that I will just take a chance. Maybe it's a bit of a gamble, but at least I knew what I wanted, and that really helped me. Sometimes it can also work against you, but honestly, from majority of cases and also from my friends, I know that by just trusting your instincts and having some background knowledge, putting all this together would actually help you and would actually make it a bit easier to take a decision, and you won't spend too much time overthinking, which is actually wasted time that you can use in some more productive plans and so on. Okay, and the final one, which I'm going to end this episode with, is to stop actually comparing to others and keep your focus on what you're doing. You might have heard it, but everyone lives in different time zones and everyone has its own timing. So that actually means that sometimes you might be just starting your journey, and that could happen at 20, at 30, at 40, and it doesn't matter, because you might actually achieve success really quick and maybe faster than others who started even earlier. So maybe you have a better background of knowledge, maybe you have more experience and more connections that would help you do that later on in life. I've also experienced this on myself, and I was really comparing myself to other people, because nowadays, honestly, it's really hard when you look at these YouTube videos, including this one probably, and you see that some other people are doing this in life and that, and maybe someone starting their own business that you also really want to get into, but you don't know how, and you understand that you're somewhat kind of let down by this. So that could be actually also destructive for you, which is why personally I try to get as much information as possible from my experiences, from the people around me, from all the videos that I watch, and just use them towards my goal. Just keep going and have the focus for what you actually want to achieve, and don't really listen or compare yourself to others in that aspect. At the end of the day, the most important is that you are healthy and happy, and that you are doing what you actually like, and that will bring you definitely more success in the future than just comparing yourself and thinking that you are late for that train whatsoever. Anyway, these were my personal tips that I really reflected on, and I thought they could be helpful for someone else, because they were truly helpful for me. And if you found this video just a little helpful or interesting for yourself, then I would kindly ask that you leave a thumbs up below, subscribe, and comment as well. Any kind of ideas or thoughts that you might have, I will try to reply as soon as I can. And if you want to contact as well, then you have all my details under this video, and I'm looking forward to your inquiries. So see you next time.